Hi, and welcome to another edition of Jonathan Maberry Answers Stuff. Today I'm talking about my wingman, Joe Ledger. A lot of people ask who Joe Ledger is, where he came from, how he came into my life, and so on. For those who don't know the character, let me give you a quick sketch. Joe Ledger is a former Baltimore police officer, actually a former detective, who is hired by a group called the Department of Military Sciences, the DMS, as a special agent, kind of a gunslinger, if you will, to go up against terrorists who have cutting-edge science weapons. And in each book, there's a different kind of weird science. The series started with Patient Zero, which pits Joe against a group using retest prion diseases to create a zombie-like plague. The most recent book deals with directed energy weapons. There have been books. There's a book about drones, GPS hacking, and autonomous drive systems. There's a book about a Cold War that's going on with developing technologies based on crashed UFOs. So there's a little bit of everything in that series. Joe goes anywhere I want him to go. He also appears in the Rotten Ruins series, in the last few books of that series. There's a book of short stories out called Joe Ledger Special Ops, which is available in print, ebook, and audio. And there's an anthology coming up called Joe Ledger Unstoppable, in which I invite several of my writer friends to write Joe Ledger stories, and that's a whole lot of fun. But who is he? Here's how this started. I was sitting at a diner in Philadelphia, where I used to live, writing and editing a nonfiction book called Zombie CSU: The Forensics of the Living Dead, which explored what would happen in the real world should there be something like a zombie apocalypse. And two characters just started talking in my head. Now, if you're not a writer, that kind of thing is a cry for help. If you are a writer, it's another day on the job. That's how stories begin. So, I kind of let them chatter in the back of my head, and then the conversation became so interesting that I shifted away from what I was doing and started writing that down. I took control of that conversation, which is how we do this. And it turned out to be the conversation where Joe is being interviewed by Mr. Church, the guy who runs the DMS. That's how he comes onto that organization. And I expanded it. I wrote an outline, wrote a couple sample chapters, and sent it to my agent, Sarah Crow, and she shopped it, and we sold it really quickly. St. Martin's Griffin imprint bought it, and Michael Homler, my editor there, has shepherded the series since. Patient Zero was the first book. Kill Switch is the 8th and most recent book. I just finished the 9th, Dogs of War, and I'm doing research on the 10th. It is a fun series. Joe is an emotionally fractured and very damaged individual because of some things that happened when he was a teenager, and that's informed not only the way he got tough and how he defines personal toughness, but also informs the reason he goes to war. It isn't for political left or right. It isn't for anybody's agenda. He's an idealist who will go to war to protect those who can't fight for themselves. With that, he's also incredibly snarky and sarcastic. And I love that about the character. And I've always been surprised by the fact that Joe Ledger is funnier than I am, and I created him. So sometimes when I'm writing a Joe Ledger scene, he'll say something that'll just crack me up, and I have no idea where it came from. It's just like as if he's talking to me. And that's a little weird, and I probably shouldn't look at that too closely. But it's Joe. Joe has good friends. He's the guy you want on your side if things go south. And he is so much fun to write. Every time I sit down to write a new Joe Ledger book, I can't wait to dive in, or a new Joe Ledger short story. So if you're not friends with Joe, he's always willing to have somebody else come and join the party. It is a weird party, so buckle up. Okay, take care.